Hey everyone, and welcome back, or if you're new here, my name is Josh, and in today's video I'm going to be reviewing the Citi Rewards Plus card. So I'll be going over the main features of this card, its pros as well as its drawbacks. So hopefully by the end of this video you'll have a much better idea whether or not this card is a good fit for you. But before we go ahead and dive into the main features of this card, if you wouldn't mind helping me out real quickly by just giving this video a like. That just helps out with the good old YouTube algorithm, and also consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already. Plus, if you would like to receive up to $9,000 in free stock, in a pinned comment below, I will be leaving a link to Webull. All you have to do is once you click on that link, is just sign up for a free account and then deposit at least 1 penny. At that point, Webull will be sending you at least 3 free stocks. These stocks are going to be worth up to $9,000. Okay, so diving right into the main features of this card. Starting out, we're going to be talking about how you can earn points with it. So you will be earning 5 points per dollar spent on hotels, car rentals, and attractions as long as you book them through the Citi Travel Portal. You're also going to be earning 2 points per dollar spent at supermarkets and gas stations for the first $6,000 spent on this card each and every year. And then on all other transactions, you will be earning 1 point per dollar spent. Now you also have some other features with earning points. So Citi is going to be running up to the nearest points on every single transaction. So just for an example, a $2 parking meter transaction would normally only earn you 10 points, but in this case, since they're running up to the nearest 10 points, you'll actually be earning 10 points for this transaction instead of just 2 points. Also, you're going to be getting 10% points back whenever you go to redeem your points up to 100,000 points per year. So if you redeem 15,000 points, just for an example, in that case, you will be getting 1,500 points back. Now with this card, you're also going to be receiving a spend bonus. So as long as you're able to spend at least $1,500 within the first 3 months of having this card, you will be earning a spend bonus of 20,000 points. The 20,000 points are going to be worth right around $200. So those are the main features of this card. At this point, we're going to go ahead and dive into the APR and fees, because of course this is also super important as well. So starting out, we're going to be discussing the purchase APR. The purchase APR for the first 15 months is going to be 0%. So perhaps if you have a lot of larger transactions coming up, or maybe even unexpected transactions where you don't have the money sitting around in your bank account right now to pay off the card in full at the end of the statement period, but at least you can make the minimum payment, this might be a good card to have, because at that point you can slowly pay off the card over the first 15 months. And then after those 15 months are up, you'll definitely want to make sure that this card is paid off in full. That way you won't be paying any interest. But again, for the first 15 months of having this card, your APR is going to be 0%. But of course, you are definitely going to want to make at least the minimum payment and try to pay it off as aggressively as possible. Of course, this should not be considered financial advice. Now, as far as balance transfers go, just like the purchase APR, for the first 15 months on those balance transfers, you're going to have a 0% APR. Of course, you do have to complete that balance transfer within the first 4 months of opening this card. And if you do so, whenever you complete that balance transfer, you are going to have a 0% introductory APR, once again, for the first 15 months. Now, as far as the cash advances go, this is something on my channel that I always recommend to stay far away from. Again, this should not be considered financial advice. This is just my personal reasons, mainly because the APR is usually super high, plus you're hit with all those fees. But if you do decide to do a cash advance with this card, just know that your APR on them is going to be a whopping 29.99%. And then of course, you're also going to be hit with some fees as well, which we are going to dive into right now. So as far as the fees go with this card, on those cash advances, like I mentioned, on top of the 29.99% APR, there's also going to be a fee of either $10 or 5% of the amount of each cash advance, whichever number happens to be greater. Then as far as the balance transfers go, even though you are going to have a 0% introductory APR for the first 15 months on them, as long as you complete it within the first 4 months of opening this card, this is not going to go without a fee. So the balance transfer fee on this card within the first 4 months is going to be either $5 or 3%, as long as you complete it within the first 4 months. But if you do not complete it within the introductory period, the first 4 months, and you decide to do a balance transfer for whatever reason later on, the fee on that is going to be either $5 or 5% of the amount of each balance transfer, whichever the numbers happen to be greater. So obviously you're much better off completing your balance transfer if you happen to do one within the first 4 months of opening this card. That way you're going to have the 0% APR, plus you're also more than likely going to have a lot less fees with that as well. Now, as far as a balance transfer go, that might make sense for you if you currently have another credit card that you're paying a lot of interest on every single month because it has a high APR, and maybe you have a larger balance with that card. In that case, you could consider taking the balance from that card and transferring it over to this card. And once again, for the first 15 months, you won't be paying any interest, but definitely make sure to pay it off within the first 15 months, because after the first 15 months are up, that is definitely going to shoot up to a higher rate. And as far as that higher rate goes, after the first 15 months are up on both purchases and balance transfers, it is going to shoot up to anywhere between 18.74 to 28.74% based on your credit worthiness. Now with this credit card, if you happen to travel abroad, this is a credit card you'll probably want to leave back at home and maybe take one instead by Capital One or some other type of travel credit card, because unfortunately this credit card does have a 3% foreign transaction fee. The reason I mentioned Capital One is because they normally do not have foreign transaction fees with this card, and then other travel credit cards out there in the market typically don't have foreign transaction fees either. Now, as far as late or return payments go, if you happen to pay late or have a return payment, there is a fee of up to $41. Now, for the first time or two, if you happen to pay late, you could always try calling into Citi and seeing if they will waive that fee for a first or second time convenience. Normally they will do so, but I definitely wouldn't bank on it. So just set up auto pay, set up a calendar, write reminders to yourself, whatever you have to do, make sure that you are paying on time. And then luckily, thankfully, with this card, there is no annual fee, so it's definitely a good thing, because for instance, if it had like a $95 annual fee, each and every year you'd have to sit down and figure out whether or not the benefits that you're taking in are worth paying the $95 for. So now that we went over the main features of this card as well as the APR and fees, at this point in time, I'm going to go ahead and move into what I would consider to be the biggest pros and cons of this credit card. So we're going to go ahead and start out with the good things. So the first good thing is the fact that you can earn 20,000 bonus points as long as you're able to spend at least $1,500 within the first 3 months from your account opening. That's going to be spending right around $500 per month, which should be achievable for most people. Now on top of that, you're also going to have your points rounded up to the nearest 10 points on each transaction. So a transaction that would normally only earn you maybe like 2 points, in that case you would actually be earning 10 points. Also, you're going to be receiving 10% points back whenever you go to redeem, so that's also a pretty good perk as well. And then finally, you're going to have a 0% introductory APR for the first 15 months on both purchases and balance transfers. So if you do have a lot of larger transactions coming up and you don't have the funds sitting around right now to pay it off right away, you'll have 15 months to slowly pay off those transactions. But again, I would definitely recommend, although not financial advice, to make sure that the balance is paid off in full within that first 15-month period. That way you don't start paying interest on a rather large balance. And then of course, finally, there's no annual fee with this credit card, so that would be the last benefit that I would have to mention. Now, as far as the drawbacks go with this credit card, the first thing that I would say is the fact that there is that 3% foreign transaction fee. So if you do happen to travel abroad, I would probably leave this one at home and take another card instead that does not have a foreign transaction fee. And secondly, I would also say that the point categories are lacking. For example, it would be great if you could earn like the 3 points per dollar spent on groceries and at restaurants rather than just 2 points per dollar spent. So you don't really have a lot of opportunities to rack up a lot of points with this card, although it is nice that they will round up your points to the nearest 10 points. That certainly helps there in that regard. But just to sum up this card, all in all, I would definitely say it's a pretty solid one. Just the fact that you are going to be earning the 20,000 bonus points, plus the points all in all are typically really not all that bad. And then finally, you're not paying an annual fee for this card. So all in all, I would say this is a pretty solid card all around. But that's all we have for today's review. I certainly hope that you enjoyed and found value out of it. If you did, again, I would greatly appreciate if you could give this video a like. Consider subscribing to my channel if you have not already, and I will see you in the next video.